are able to read the Meta, they still will put Osiris here, right? The Greek name. It's a bit unfortunate, but I've come to expect it now. That's just the reality of it. And you could even translate the name in lots of different ways. We've heard the seer. We've even heard Yusir, which is an older way to translate it. That's what, for those of you who know Yusir, it said, that's an interesting name. It's a version of Asar. That's his name. So, just so you know. So what do we know about Asar? What do we know about Asar? I know y'all thinking, wait a minute, he's talking to us. I thought he was going to do the tour. I want to know what you know. Let's add some information.
The mythical aspect, he's the father of Baruch. He's married to Set. So they're the three consorts. Sar, Set, and Baruch, mother, father, child.
Sure.
And Asar in the Kemetic tradition represents the complete manifestation of one metaphysical being. Asar translates into Egyptian, the religious aspect of Christianity also. Okay, that's another story, but you see it. And the Romans carried that in there when they conquered Kemetic. But Asar, basically, it's a story behind Asar too, in reference to what happened to him when Set and Heru got into a battle, and Set has Heru has some damage done to him by Set, and they took the coffin, cut his body, and sawed into 14 pieces, and then actually Heru resurrected him. Okay, while Set found his body in the pool. Okay.
He's given us a lot of information on Asar, right?
Right. And it's interesting because when you think about his body was cut up into 14 pieces. I came from Catholic school, and I know you know, Jabari, when they took the Eucharist in. Bread, okay, faces of the moon, okay, the quarter 14 pieces, etc. It's a lot of symbology.
There's tons of symbols here, which is good. Thank you. That's great information.
Of course, you know,
That's why I always wanted to go into that.
The crown, the headdress of the white crown of Kemet. Okay, that's the white crown of Kemet, and then the red crown for the southern part.
This brother ain't said nothing that wasn't on point. This is good stuff.
And then he has the scepter, symbols of power. Same thing that you find with the Pope. Poses in also with the scepter and
the Heka and the Heka.
Yes. Okay.
So that's a good orientation. What I want us to recognize is that what you are seeing here is a representation of your ability to conquer death. So I want to start in a simple place and then give you some more details. A representation on your ability to actually conquer death. The symbol of the immortal soul. The fact that you are so powerful that you must recognize that death is not your end. That in fact, it's in many ways the shortest part of your existence, right? One of the titles that Asar was known as is Kenti Amentiyu. Say Kenti Amentiyu. Which means the first of the Westerners. And so just in that sense, I want you to also recognize that our Kemetic ancestors believe that through his resurrection, through his death and resurrection, that is how the rest of us have access to the afterlife. Sound familiar? Well, this story is thousands of years older. Thousands of years older. So, Asar has been mythologized as the first king of Kemet. He actually puts Kemet together and teaches the citizens of Kemet civilization, irrigation, viniculture. What's viniculture?
There's something similar to agriculture.
It's part of agriculture. Anyone know what viniculture is? What's on the vine?
Grapes.
Making grapes and making wine? Okay. He also taught them how to cultivate the grain. Some of you heard what I said, but I know it's going to take a little while to sink in. He's connected to the grain and the grape. Right? Some of you will catch what I said, but you're not going to. You'll get it later. So, yes. So this is a deity that the first deity that we see connected to In some ways you could say blood and body, or more accurately here, bread and wine, right? So that's what we begin to see when we see Asar. And so Asar gives all of this to Kemet. He decides he's going to go off and give civilization to the entire world. And in his stead, he decides he's going to leave someone on the throne of Kemet. His brother believed it would have probably been him. It was not. He left his great queen on the throne. And because of that, his brother was angered. Asar goes off and leads all of the rest of the world into civilization. And when he returns, his wife, what is his wife's name? Osset or Ast. What are the Greeks call?
Isis.
Now listen, I would rather not mention the Greek names, but the reality is that if you're going to do your research, unfortunately, you're still going to have to look for the Greek names, right? Okay. And by the way, if you don't remember that Isis is actually Ast, and you don't look for her name, you won't recognize her signature in modern society. More about Ast later. So, when he returns and speaks to his wife says, "Your brother means you harm." He says, "No, how could that happen? He's my brother. He has a big party, a welcome home party for me." And you should know that even in the myth, Ast was clearly an African woman. Because in the myth, Ast says, "Well, if you don't believe me, I'm not going to the party with you." Listen, when you have run civilizations, you don't get just to be told what to do, right? And so some of us think, well, black women have lots of ideas and thoughts and hard to control. Why would you try to control the person that helped you build civilization? Of course she has an attitude, because she has built civilization and gets to see how far we've come from it. Anyway, even in the story, she says, "I'm my own person, I'm not going with you." He goes there, and what happens? He's killed. He's killed. And so the rest of the story is this journey that Ast has to put the pieces of Asar back together. And as she does that, she is then able to take in his seed and give birth to their heir. The heir's name is Heru. The Greeks called him
Horus.
Right? And so that's part of the story of how this occurs. The rest of it, I'm going to make it as short as I can. But you should know that Austin has to raise a black man from a boy without her husband. That part of the story I know you've heard before. You've seen it before in the hood, right? Heru gets older, goes to battle his uncle, first is unsuccessful, but later learns all of the wisdom and then defeats his uncle. And at that time, Asar is able to then become the first of the Westerners. The deity in heaven, let's consider him that way, while Heru is the power on earth. Make sense? I'm sorry. Yes, I said it right. Asar is in heaven, Heru's on earth. So as you look at him, you'll see that he's bound. Why is he bound? You know what I mean when I say he's bound? Can you see you don't see the individual portions of his body? Did you notice that before? Some of you went like this when I said that. You didn't notice that before? Why is that?
He's in a mummified position, a resurrected state.
This could be considered the mummified position. Right? So his body, his pieces were put back together. So he had to be bound. He's the first person to be sahufied. Mummified. Very important character. And yes, he does wear the white crown. This one is called the Atef crown because it also has the feathers on it. And you'll also see that he has the crook and the flail. So this character is of critical importance to our understanding of resurrection. Yes?
You see an image of Asar where he's standing in front of the, sort of like a false, what they call a false door. Maybe there's two eyes above him. Can you explain what that means?
I think I'd probably explain it better when they see it.
Oh, it's here?
I think I might. I'm going to try to pull up a picture so you can see.
Okay.
But take a look here, right? Anyone familiar with this scene? This one's not Ani, but it is a judgment scene. Which judgment scene is this? That's right. So I knew that the initiates of the Shrine Mod would be able to tell the difference, right? This is Hu Nefer. But I want you to recognize that when all of us hopefully are judged worthy of heaven, we then meet Asar. And so it's really important that we recognize Asar's importance. But I want to say something else about Asar before we come over here. Recognize that as we see Asar, the name that is written here for this character is not just Asar. In this instance, it's Asar Hu Nefer. Because if you actually are judged worthy of heaven, you become Asar. Once again, this is the symbolic nature of the divine force. Does that make sense? I'm not talking about a historical person. We're talking about energy. We're talking about how spirit moves and works. And so this is of critical importance.
Jabari, does Hunef signify breath?
Does,
Hunef signify breath.
I can't hear what you're saying.
Does Hunef signify breath?
Hu Nef, the name Hu Nefer?
Yes.
You could say it could be like the, I'd have to see the glyphs, and I don't see the glyphs for Hu Nefer. I don't have them here in front of me right now. But you could, Nefer means beauty, right? Nefer means beauty. It could mean the beautiful breath. It could also, Hu is also a name for divine wisdom. So there are a lot of different ways that you can translate it. I have to read the glyphs to know for sure. Yes.
On the picture, is that moot above?
No, you're probably just seeing the ujat, the eye.
No.
Yeah, the